Welcome to the late IHP show with Maria, your lovely 5D mystic. And on tonight's show, we're going to talk about one distinctive factor that will tell you if you're 5D or 4D, at least mystic, okay? Because it's not our term. 5D means Christ consciousness, and I can translate it to you, humanly speaking, integration of the brain, okay? So using your prefrontal cortex, and therefore not having this spiritual narcolepsy, falling angel, or really we shouldn't use the word, so that we can disengage from the stories of 4D spiritual bypassers. Okay, so it's not meant to be in any way, shape, or form one of those categories, because that's not what spirituality is all about. So spirituality, when you look at how I recently came across a beautiful way that it's been defined, thank you, Daniel Siegel. He went to a spirituality conference, as sciences and spirituality, in fact, come together. But science is explaining how no person is possessed by any demon or any of that evil ancient story stuff. The movement toward our new adventure as a lovely human species involves our neurobiologists, our neuroscientists, our attachment and trauma, informational individuals, therapists, subject matter experts. So unless you're a flat earther, and that's why the 4D, spiritual bypassers, that's also why 3D, we know them as the ancient ones, like Scarlet Letter type. So they don't believe in people like Robert Sapolsky, his recent book, Determined, and he does talk about us not having free will. Now, granted, I personally have my own opinion about that, but let me put that to the side, because he does qualitative, I believe. I'm not sure if there's some quantitative data in his research, but I know he's an academic. So the way he's presented his entire findings can be discussed, and I'm sure at some point it will be by academics, which is different than when you find people like me on social media. That's why I'm woo-woo pseudoscience lady. That's why personal development and our lovely self-help journey is one that says, here, I have experience, I have educational background, but I'm not the academic researcher in the lab with the academics, with the institutions. So there's 3D and 4D who they completely dismantled and decided that, oh, no, community and all that is from the organization doesn't count. No. Again, science and spirituality come together. So both sciences with Daniel Siegel and integration of the brain share that when we're integrated, what is going to come forth is a kind, compassionate human being, because we're in our mammalian heritage. And as you'll find out from Robert Sapolsky, one of his recent interviews, he shares the frontal cortex is actually what continues to evolve, and in fact is not determined by genetics, but is determined by our environment. And so the other parts of the brain are actually what have been determined, it seems, by 2 or 3 years. Those first 3 years of your life, implicit memory. Okay, so that's why it's very important for us to know about attachment and trauma, because when a person has their unfinished business and they don't know about it and they're wandering between realms, and then they find some 4D or 3D person, they're going to think of evil as if there's some entity. Versus Patrick McNamara, neuroscientist, who shares with us not only the religious self and the decentralization and the re-expanding of the self when that happens, but he also studies the same academic research stuff in a lab, okay? So he's conducting research with brains. So people that are 4D or 3D, they're into the whole conspiracy stuff based on a spiritual bypass again. So spirituality, the term is when you're living a life of meaning, that moves and goes beyond, but also that holds connection beyond the solo self. Okay, so that's why when we see our lovely Sadhguru, as he shares a lot of different quotes, but one of them is, you're a gift to the universe, so am I. And there's also, when you're going to overflow with humanity, that's when divinity descends, but he's not talking about divinity as an entity. No, and so the beginner's mind, you can have a beginner's mind when you reconcile that lovely inner child of yours. So compassion, it can come online when you have the working of the mind And so you have a window of tolerance at the very least, and you can become aware of yourself. So if you have clinical dissociation, if there are things like losses of time and stuff like that, important things, I'm attachment trauma informed, but I'm going to use this when you are experiencing structural dissociation. I have seen it firsthand because people tell it to me. There are things that come up, but those first 3 years of life, there's not things, it's implicit memory. So they will come up as sensations and potentially images. And that's the part of why, as a 5D mystic, what I wanted to share in today's episode, the spirituality journey, the first step is getting home to your inner child. And that's because you're full of that trauma charges and memory. If there was a frightening home or an emotionally neglectful home, and that's the one place that the 4D, who are spiritual bypassers, 3D, they don't look. They don't look at their 0 and 1-year-old. They don't look at their 2-year-old. They don't look at their 3-year-old because, again, it's emotions that come up. So there's non-bilateral integration, and then we have Cuscos. And here's how they distort that reality. They manipulate it, but not in a way that is something that people would spot. Okay, so I've seen plenty of 4D. I have friends that are 4D and 3D, and they always are going to make sense with the stories that resonate, because that's exactly how Stephen Porges, he shares how when we're in our biological rudeness, so the maladaptive child behavior is not conscious. You're not aware of the emotional stuff in a way that says, let me be self-aware and self-reflective and notice, am I speaking something in a way that is actually unaffected by what I feel, that I like or dislike? So I know I'm getting off topic, but essentially the spirituality journey is when you return home to your lovely human body, which is the restorative embodiment of you. And so treasures hidden in the shadows. When people talk about the shadow self, the 4D, they don't look at their inner child. So it's only if you look at your inner child and say, okay, let me think, was my home a place that was child-centric? Did I have the capacity to love easily? Did I have the capacity to also know that I'm lovable? And did I get to experience all of those basic emotions? Or did I perhaps not have a ventral vagal nervous system human being at home? Okay, so a third of attunement and repairing ruptures is what the ideal parenting style would be for the first year of life. And then your left mode comes online. That's the verbal part. And so then you get the story from that lovely and those lovely parents. And remember in Hook, when he explains why he left, right? When it shows that his parents began to talk about what he would do and not do. And so he's like, I didn't want to grow up. Okay, so that's what happens, basically, if you will, to those poor children until they return home. And we have great Patrick Tiahan. Patrick McNamara's for neuroscience, where he shares how there's no demon that possesses anyone with the whole demonic possession thing. So there's a fear receptor in your brain. It's going wonky while your brain's trying to heal with trauma memory and or more. Okay, so this is where he's science man. I'm the pseudoscience woo-woo lady, okay? There's a reason for that. So the 5D mystics in the Enlightenment Soul Age group, we respect our academics, the good ones, and we learn from the ones who are Peter Pans and Wendy's. So it's okay to have different ways of talking about things, but the 5D mystic will see above the fray, and we know definitely that the limitless possibility is you, the human you. And so getting rid of those masks means you uncovering your inner child, and as Patrick Tiahan points out, reparenting and becoming the inner adult here. So it is when you learn about your inner world, your twin flame and or flames can awaken you to that, but not in the way the 4D talks about. Our relationships, our oversoul are always expanding. We have 2 episodes, and so that's why Pachas, we shake hands with all people, and we know that there's a restorative embodiment within you, that you can achieve integration of the brain with the support of healthy self-worth and empowered women, men, and days. So whether you're polyamory, monoamory, it's about authenticity, transparency, no masks, surrendering to our mammalian heritage. So spirituality, again, living beyond the solo self, meaning and connection, and that's because we have the contract, the divine feminine, to share opportunity and love anytime we get the opportunity. And so to help people notice the difference between love and not love.